Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to introduce Ken Ehlers. Ken has been modeling Colorado narrow gauge since 1977, first in HON3 and then in SN3. Ken is well known for his contest modeling, having twice won Best of Show awards at the narrow gauge conventions in 1990 and again in 2000. Ken's layouts have been featured in the Gazette, SN3 Modeler, RMC, and Model Railroader, and he is Master Model Railroader number 119. After retiring in 2008 as an electrical engineer from ConocoPhillips, Ken and his wife Margaret moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Ken is working on the latest edition of his SN3 Pandora and San Miguel Railway. Ken and I just completed the 2021 Tulsa Union Convention this past Sunday. That was a joint effort by the Mid-Continent Lone Star Region NMRA and the Indian Nations Division. Ken is going to present part 2 of his clinic on photography. This will be the section on post processing. So Ken, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Before I forget, there are some notes that are out in the file section of the NNG groups area. And the material we covered last time, if you don't want to hear me talk through it again, there was a write-up in the Gazette, January 2017, that pretty well covered what we talked about last time. Where we got to last time, we looked at the need for a real camera and tripod. We talked about how to set the camera up, lighting using 3200 degree 500 watt photo floods, and we talked about focus and taking multiple shots so that we could use Helicon Focus to get a scene completely into focus. And I think this was the slide we ended on, and I encourage everybody to go out on the web and take a look at Helicon Focus. The particular software that we're going to be looking at used to be called Helicon Light, now it's called Helicon Soft. It's their cheapest and easiest and most compact of the software that they offer. And it will do exactly what we need to do for model railroad shots. Okay, so this is what we're going to do this evening. We're going to talk about the workflow. We need to download our raw files to the computer. They're the shots we took upstairs on the layout. We need to convert those raw files to TIFF files so that the Helicon Focus will be able to process those. Then after we load and process in Helicon Focus, then we're going to be in Adobe Photoshop the rest of the evening. Several people ask about photo elements. Adobe Photo Elements will do just about everything that Photoshop will do that we need to do. And as we get into Photoshop, you're going to see that there's an awful lot of stuff that is there to play with that we probably don't need, at least in the beginning. So the photo that I've chosen to work with this evening is on a local layout. This is from Tom Frazier's Brooklyn Terminal. I thought I would pick a standard gauge photo. If we can make a standard gauge photo look good, then certainly anything we shoot in narrow gauge should look great. So these are the 5 shots I took, all exactly the same, except for the focus. Kind of hard for me to tell on my screen, but one of these is the furthest away and one is the closest with 3 shots in between. And that's what we're going to be working with. So first thing we do is load those photos into our computer. The little program I use is called Image Capture. I'm not sure exactly where I got it. You may have something very similar to that came with your computer. And then the program I use to convert the raw files to TIFF is called Nikon Picture Control Utility 2. Again, that is a program that you will need to go out and find at your camera manufacturer. They will provide that to you free, but you'll need to download that because that treats the specific raw files that your camera produces and will turn those into JPEGs or TIFFs or whatever you want to do. I strongly suggest that you save those as TIFF files. Okay, so now we've converted to the TIFF and we want to load those files into Helicon Focus. So we open up Helicon Focus, we go up to File, Open Images, and like any other program, we're going to have to maneuver around until we can find the right file and where we save those on our computer. Mine's in a folder called Tom Foucher, so I found those. And when we open these files, we want to open up all 5 at once. So I've highlighted them there. If your finger slips and you get an extra file, probably the best thing to do is just to start over. If your finger slips and you only get 4 of them, start over. We want all 5. So we highlight those and we click on Open. And another screen comes up. This screen is going to give us some methods of smoothing. There's 3 methods up there. We want method B, which is the depth map. For those of you that like to play around, you can change the radius of smoothing and play around with this all evening to see if you can get better results. And when you finally get tired of doing this, you can come back and hit the reset button and actually get started. So we've loaded the pictures. Now all we really need to do is hit the button that says render. My old computer, when you did this, it was going to click around and regurgitate slides for anywhere 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. If you've got a faster computer, mine spits these out in about 5 or 6 seconds now. Whatever, let the computer grind out the process, and when it gets finished, you'll have appear on the screen the beginning picture and a finished picture. The last thing you want to do in Helicon Focus is save that photo. Go to File, Save it as a TIFF, and it will assign a file name. It's that long, funny name there. And I usually keep that because it's a rather unique name and it's unique to this particular file. And whenever I see that kind of file name, I know that that file came out of Helicon Focus, but has not been worked on in Photoshop yet. So that's all there is to Helicon Focus. We are done there. Next thing we're going to do is load our photo into Photoshop. Don't look at the photo here yet. What I want you to do is go up at the top and look at the very top of the screen where it says Photoshop, File, Edit, Image. What you have up there is a whole group of menus. And when you click on any one of those, you're going to get a whole series of secondary menus opened up. We'll see those in a minute. Down on the left, we have toolboxes. Again, whenever you click on one of those tools, there'll be some more information about that tool come up. If you right-click on the tool, you'll find that there's 2 or 3 or 4 more tools that are hidden underneath. Lots of stuff to worry about in the beginning. Okay, now what I've done here is I've taken a series of 6 screenshots. You cannot actually make Photoshop do this. This is like 6 different pages I've put together. And I've done this to show you all of the different menus that are available. For instance, when we click File, we get this whole group of things here on the left. So what I want to do is just take a minute and go through each one of these main menus and show you the ones we're going to be using. File, you obviously are going to need New and Open, Save and Save As. And down at the bottom, we're going to look at a panorama very quickly later on. And this is kind of an advanced thing, but where it says automate. That's where you would put a panorama together. Next menu, edit. The most important button in Photoshop is there where it says undo, and it will say undo whatever the last thing you did. So this is the friendliest button in Photoshop because it allows you to fix your mistakes, your slip ups, the places where you just went in and tried something and found out you're in the wrong place. The other thing that's pretty neat about this particular menu, you get down about halfway and it says transform. That allows you to straighten up and fix the photo that's not quite straight. When you're shooting a picture in wide angle and you're up close, that picture is almost always going to be skewed and crooked one way or another. The third main menu up at image, the main thing we're going to be looking there is where it says adjustments. Now, these are the typical Photoshop things like color, brightness, contrast, the kind of things that you would think would go along with a photo kind of computer program. Well, there are also a couple of others that we'll look at very quickly, auto tone and auto color. Also, this image size is where you resize your photos if you need to. But the main thing in there is the adjustments. Next menu over is layer. We're going to do a new layer and a duplicate layer. And when we get all finished, we'll go down at the bottom and we will flatten the image to make all those layers come back together. We'll talk about layers in detail in a minute. Over on filter, about the only thing we need to worry about there is what's called sharpen. I use the sharpening routine I use is called unsharpened mask. Like Photoshop, every place else, it gives you about 5 or 6 different ways of doing that. There's all sorts of other little filters and things you can play with there, but sharpen is probably the main thing. Window is another menu that is your friend. And it's your friend because any of these things you click on, it's going to bring up a box and it's going to list items that you're working on. And it's going to be a way of keeping track of what you're doing. And we will see that again in a minute. So that's a rough overview of Photoshop menus. And then we want to take a look at a couple of the tools. First tool we're going to look at is the eraser. It's this funny little button that's highlighted over on the left. When you click on that, like every other tool, there's a bunch of information that comes up on the top. You can resize the tool. You can make the tool, you can make the eraser where it erases with a very a blending or a very blunt type of eraser. You can also change the opacity so that you're erasing just a very little bit or you can erase a lot. Again, it's very flexible. The paintbrush tool works very much like the eraser. The thing that it adds is your painting in color. Down there on the left, where you see a little blue box and white box, that top color there, that's the color that you're working in. If you don't like that color, you click on it, a color palette comes up and you have access to virtually any color you want. The color underneath is a saved color. It's kind of handy, especially if you've gone to the trouble to look for a particular color, but you don't need it at the moment. You just kind of want to save it. You can toggle back and forth. Again, the paintbrush, you can change the size. There's also a block function that is kind of neat when you're doing something up and down, kind of like the eraser. And we'll see in a bit this idea of changing the opacity. It can work almost like a where you're using your spray brush to very lightly mist colors on. So there's the two main areas that you need to know about: the menus and the tools on the left there. Okay, when I open up a picture, if it's something I'm going to look at much at all, this is the first thing I do. I go I wonder if I can get rid of this bar up here. Ah, yes, great. That makes it better. So we've opened the picture, and the first thing I want to do is go up in the menu and click on Image, come down and click on Adjustments, and then click on Levels. When we click on the levels, we get a, oh, good, I can move you too. We get this box that opens up with this histogram. The x-axis is the frequency going from red to infrared. The y-axis is the amount. This shows a picture taken under incandescent photofloods. If we taken the picture under fluorescence, you would see a couple very sharp peaks that go way up high, which would be very difficult to get rid of. So while in this box, the first thing we want to do is, let me get the pointer here just a second. That would sure help things a bit. Okay, first thing you want to do is bring these little triangles in where they touch the white. Just pull them in, and then it will look like this. And what that does, your computer has a finite number of colors that it can deal with, and this allows your computer to make full use of its color capacity. Next thing we want to do is adjust the brightness, and that's that center triangle. You can just slide it back and forth and kind of take your time and try to find that particular place where the brightness looks just right. Now, if you took your photos under the photo floods and had your camera set up for incandescent lights, this would probably be a stopping place. You probably wouldn't have to go any further as far as fixing the color. If you took your picture under fluorescence, the color is better, but probably not very good. And while we're in this box, this is a place to do a first pass on fixing the color. What we want to do, see if I can get, yeah, I'm still getting things kind of in the way here, guys. Let me move this. All right, what we want to do is go over here where we have these three eyedroppers. The one on the left controls the shadows, and the one on the right controls highlights. What we want to focus on is the middle one. If we click on that, we will get a screen that comes up like this right here. What we're interested in is in this gray box right here. And if everything is set up right, these three numbers here will all be the same. What we're looking for is a medium gray, something that approximates what we used to call photo gray. Click OK on that. When that happens, your eyedropper will appear on your picture, and you can just go around and click all over that picture. What you're looking at here is I clicked on that orange tank car, and this is the color I got. What I'm looking for is someplace on this picture that matches this gray color. When I find that, that's going to probably do a very good job of correcting the color. If you play around on this and you just can't get it to work, then you can always come back, get canceled, and go back up to where we were before. But this is probably the best and most straightforward way of fixing color in Photoshop. Although there's probably a half a dozen different other ways that you can maneuver and play around with your color. Now, working in layers is kind of like painting a picture with tracing paper, in which the picture is spread out over different parts of the tracing paper, and you put all those pieces together to make one picture or one photo. To do what we're going to do, we need to open up a duplicate layer, and we also need to open up a new layer, and we'll click OK on those. And once we've done that, here's our duplicate layer. It's a copy of the background, and here's our new layer. And to move those around, by the way, this layers box, the way we got that, we clicked on layers when we went to the windows, went down that list of items in the Windows menu. Layers is one of those boxes. So when we open it up, that's that box that keeps track of which layers are where. These little eye buttons over here, if they're on, that means the layer is active. The layer that is highlighted, that's the one that we're working on. The other layers are not highlighted, so whatever we do at that particular point, they will not be affected. So what we want to do is rearrange these layers. We want the background copy on top, because that's the one we're going to work on. We want the new layer underneath. And the background layer, we have to keep it. I'm not exactly sure why, but we're not going to do anything else to it, so we're going to turn it off. Now, what we're getting to is that we want to go into our picture and we want to erase all the junk that's in the background. And we're going to replace that with sky and clouds. The easy way to do that would just be to take the eraser and start erasing. And we could reduce the eraser way down in size, and maybe we get into the cracks and get most of the places. But what you're going to find is you're going to start erasing a good bunch of the picture. So we need a better way to clear that out. The tool we want to use is called the magic wand. Y'all guys keep getting in the way here. I don't know if you can see that or not. But it's this, this item right over here. Oop, there it is. Anyway, when we click the magic wand, it works on color. And so we're going to click the blue, and it's going to highlight that section of blue that we clicked on. Now, how much blue it selects depends on our tolerance up here. A very small number is going to be very selective, and we'll find that it will select just a small portion of the blue. A much bigger number, and it will select a much larger range of color, even to the point that it will start to select part of the picture we want to keep. So you need to be careful about your tolerance up here. I usually start out somewhere between 12 and 25, and then click. And if I'm getting part of the picture into the area that I've included, I'll go up and I'll set this number on something smaller. But we set it on 22, and we've clicked on the blue, and it's outlined that area. So now I go over and I select my eraser, and I can be real sloppy about this. It's only going to erase the part that's been selected, and I erase that. This process is probably the longest, the most tedious part of working on the picture. I will go back in and select different places on the place I want to erase. It will take maybe 15, 20 times to get the whole little bit of it and get it all cleared out. When I get done, it's going to look like this. I've cleared out everything up there that was in the background. I've cleared out all the little bits in this see-through sign, and I'm ready to bring a backdrop in. Now, Tom doesn't know, but all his pictures that we had up on our website, his New York terminal pictures all have Colorado skies and Colorado clouds. But as long as the mountains don't show, I don't think he was too upset. So I've loaded this into Photoshop. You can have multiple pictures open in Photoshop at one time, which is really helpful. I'm going to use the copy and paste up here in edit. But before I do that, Photoshop requires me that I make a background layer of my photo. So I've gone in to layer, and I've opened up a duplicate of that, and that's going to allow me to come up and edit and copy that. So now I go back and I move back over to the file that I was working on. and I load that into my picture with the copy function, and it comes out on top. It's the top layer. So now I want to move that, and I just simply using my move tool, I just simply take this down and move it down below my main copy. So that now it's situated behind the background is situated behind the picture. I still have my move tool, and my background copy is the active layer. So I can take my move tool and I can slide that around. If I slide it up a little bit, we'll see some mountains, but I want to make sure I've got those down low, and I want to move the clouds around in a way that I think it looks the best. Okay. Next thing I want to do is crop the picture. I've got way too much of this concrete drive, too much sky, and I want to get rid of this little bit of truck that's sticking out here that just kind of is all by itself. So I'm going to crop that. And the other thing I want to do at this point, before I flatten the image, is to sharpen the main part of the picture. So I've gone over to the section where my sharpening is, and I'm using the unsharpened mask. You can sharpen 2 or 3 or 4 times. The trick is to start out with a fairly small number. If you get this number here too high, your photo will look like it's got penicillin growing on it. It becomes really ugly, which is kind of the case of a number of things that you can do in Photoshop if you get carried away and overdo things. So now I have cropped, I have sharpened, and I'm ready to merge everything down. So I've gone back over to layer, down to flatten. I click on flatten, and that puts everything down in one layer, which makes it easier to save. So now I'm ready to save the file. I want to save it full size, so I have a really good picture to print or to send to the Gazette. Although Bob probably doesn't want this one. And I will save it as a TIFF file. If I want to send this on the internet with some friends to look at, I will go back into to image, reduce the size, and save it as a JPEG, and get it down to somewhere between 250, 300K. The file size I have right now before I reduce this, these started out as 24 meg before they were put together in Helicon Focus. We're up somewhere around 70 meg, so it's pretty good size file. Okay, we talked about the paintbrush. The smoke and steam are done using paintbrush. Lower the opacity to somewhere around 12–15% on both of those. I always do smoke effects in a separate layer. Sometimes it takes me 5 or 6 or 7 times to get it where I like it. I can throw away, just don't turn on those other layers, or I can pick the one I like, or I can put 2 or 3 layers together if I want. When this was printed in the Gazette, Bob Brown commented it looked like it was taken outside. And again, that's the result of the using the photo floods. Here's the picture that we were working on. There are several things I really like about this picture. I like the way the color pops out. I like the way the sky covers up all the junk that was there in the beginning. I like Tom's modeling. I like all the signs. I love the see-through sign up there. It says Roker's Engineering Company. I like the way the brick is weathered. And the picture brings out, I think, pretty well the details of what Tom has done here. This was on David Steen's H13 layout. This is the actual backdrop that's there. However, in order to make it work well, I did the same thing to this that we did on the previous picture. I went back and erased the background and then reinserted it. The reason I did that is very difficult to get even lighting when you're working on a horizontal surface and you have a vertical surface in the back. So that just made it a little easier to get even lighting between the 3D models in the front and the photo backdrop in the back. All right, we talked about a little bit last time about why you want to go to all the trouble to do this stuff. And I think Lynn's model here, the crown point, is a perfect example of why you would take all the time to set up the lights and the camera and try to have the very best pictures you can, because the model just has exquisite detail and exquisite coloring. Every single thing here in the model, including all the machinery, the windows, the doors, every bit of it is scratch built. There's not a commercial part in this that I know of. This was in the Gazette several years back. And the thing you're trying to do is to show off the model, not necessarily show attention to the photograph, but to make the model look the very best it can look. And that's what we tried to do with Lynn's model here. Okay, the picture on the right, the camera is always set on the layout. So this is one of those things where it's kind of trial and error. You take 5 or 6 pictures before you kind of get a feel where you are with the lighting and the focus. Picture on the right, both of these were on 6 meg cameras, by the way. Picture on the right was taken and processed using Helicon Focus. And you will notice that the first couple of inches there down at the bottom are out of focus. And that's because the camera is set up right on the edge of the layout. Every lens has a distance. A micro lens, it might be 3 or 4 inches. A regular lens might be 18, 20, 30 inches, in which the lens simply will not focus. There's a minimum distance that the camera has to be away from the subject. So Helicon Focus will not work a miracle. You have to put something into the program to get something out that's in focus. So if I was printing this picture or having it in the magazine, I would crop that bottom a little bit there that's out of focus. Again, the photo on the left is a 24 meg. The photo on the right is only 6. But this is kind of amazing. You see all those bents just really sharp and clear. Again, that's partly the Helicon Focus, and that's partly getting the light in just the right way, where you see the shadows and the contrast between the light and dark on the bents there. That's the result of taking the time to get your main light in the right position. Okay, this shot here is kind of an anomaly to the clinic. This is a panorama that was four shots put together. That was in that animate button on the file when we talked about Photoshop a little while ago. This was shot under fluorescence, and this was shot without using the Helicon Focus. It works pretty good. If you get the camera absolutely level in all 3 dimensions, Helicon Focus will put these photos together for you pretty easily. If you're not completely level, then it's the program's going to have a hard time. It's going to make you do a lot more work to make things fit together. Now, to compare the lighting and the focus and the sharpness, compare that to this photo here. This was done with the correct lighting and with Helicon Focus. You can see, I hope, the difference in the quality of the light, the quality of seeing the detail in the roof shakes, and just the general sharpness of the picture. This looks dull and really kind of ugly by comparison. And again, if you were only looking at this, you might say, oh, it looks pretty good. But when you see a picture that really has good color and is really sharply in focus, you'll see the difference, and it will show up when you have your picture sitting next to a couple others in your contest room, or when you're thumbing through the magazine and you get to 3 or 4 pictures that look really good. All right, we don't only see that's already happened. So we are finally at the end, and we'll take some questions.
Ken,
Yes.
this is Dale DeWitt. When you were selecting how many shots to start with, do you use Helicon Remote to help you with that, or do you just estimate it by eye?
I estimate it. I always take at least 4, and it sometimes come out 5 or 6. The first shot, the focus ring is turned all the way counterclockwise, and then I turn about a quarter of a turn. I will typically set up with my depth of field set with the largest number that I have. If you were being extremely critical, you would do some experimenting with your lens and probably find that you'll get a sharper picture around f4 or f8 rather than f22 or f36. With my equipment, I don't notice much difference, so I set it at the highest f-stop, and that reduces the number of photos I need to take. If you get into a situation where you're taking a picture of an area that's maybe 10, 15 feet deep, and you load your pictures up, and in the middle you can't get it to focus, you probably need to go back and take more pictures.
We had some experience setting the camera at f8, kind of the sweet spot we thought with the lens, and then using Helicon Remote over something with a large depth, 10 or 15 feet, and sometimes it required 15 to 25 shots to get the whole range of sharpness we wanted.
Yes, the lower the f-stop, the more pictures you're going to have to take to cover the focus. Absolutely. I think for most people, if you're shooting something that's in the range of 2 to 4 feet deep, you should find that the Helicon Focus Soft will work just as well for you, at least for us amateurs.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ken? All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it.